Why would we speak about listening if the aim is not to challenge us all to be listening more carefully to what our lives are saying to us? Because the art of living is the art of listening. And why is listening an art? It's an art because seeing is not believing. Listening is a deeper, more artful realization of the meaning of our lives beyond the obvious and the external appearance of things. You know, this is what we do as logotherapists. We seek to listen to our clients behind the problems they are presenting to us. What are they struggling about? What meaning are they seeking? What issues are they facing that they want to express in order to get greater clarity about their direction in life and what life is calling upon them to do? That conversation is logotherapy. And so it is with life. Um, you know, we have to ask what are our lives asking of us in changing situations from moment to moment? What is the call that comes to us? Because life is a question to which we must give an answer. And we are to give the right answer. We have responsibility, which means we are able to rightly respond. That is why Frankl said, and it's very important what he said, that we can only answer if we are being questioned. And we must realize that we are being addressed, we are being spoken to in every situation of our lives. There is an imperative to listening. I will question you, God said to Job, and you will answer me. And that is why Frankl said each situation is a call. First, to listen, and only then to respond. And I want to give you a graphic example in my own life. When my son Samuel was born, he had two different looking ears. The one was against his head, and the other one was like a hand was being cupped behind it, like you do when you want to listen to somebody more carefully. And the pediatrician said to me, you know what, we can fix this very easily and make the two ears look the same. I can clip this one ear back. I said, not on your life. It's a sign that this child has been given an ear to listen. And wow, this also reminds me of the prophet Habakkuk, because it's especially in times of difficulties, in times of doubt and confusion, in times of pain and suffering, when we don't know why it is what hit us, what the meaning of it is, that the call to listen is particularly sharp. Habakkuk, faced with the problems that he were being faced with in his lifetime, said, I will wait. I will stand on my watch and see what he will be saying to me. And God answered him and said, the vision is yet for an appointed time. Though it tarries, wait for it. It will certainly come. And it will not be behindhand on its appointed day, nor will it disappoint. My word, to be able to lift your head in that kind of faith, even if you don't know what the answer is in the immediate, you trust that the answer will come to you and that you will see that whatever has happened to you, if you respond correctly, that all of that was part of a bigger plan to refine your hearing and to make more powerful your responses. You know, Frankl spoke about the unconscious God, and he defined it as, it is to be understood as a latent relation to transcendence that is inherent in man. One might conceive of this relation in terms of a relationship between the immanent self and the transcendent thou. And the meeting place of this conversation is in our conscience. That is why Frankl said conscience originates in transcendence. It's a divine ability given to man to be able to listen so that he might correctly respond. And it's in our conscience that we are listening, like he said, when he defined conscience, where we hear the voice of the transcendent sounding through to our consciousness. You know, even if you have no belief in God, like Frankl said, he doesn't believe there's such a thing as an irreligious man, because we're all tuned into life to hear and to respond in a way that is presented to our conscience as a call, as a challenge, as a confrontation. We can't escape it. This is just who we are and the way we have been put together. And it's an illumination, actually, of this conversation that is logotherapy. You know, what is a problematic situation saying to our client? What is the meaning of it? What is the challenge to it? What is to be done about it? And we refine our client's hearing. And that is why this is the way Frankl defined logotherapy. He says logotherapy aims to unlock the will to meaning and to assist the patient in seeing a meaning in his life. It borrows from what the patient knows by the wisdom of his heart, that unconscious God, and in the depth of his unconscious. Through logotherapy, this knowledge is brought to the surface of consciousness, because it's only after a profound listening that we can see, that is, that we can know what is being required of us, and that we can respond appropriately to the call. And it obviously follows that, you know, we can escape the call, we can deny it, we can run away from it, but then our actions will have no power. What we do will turn out to be futile and meaningless and boomerang on us, that what we actually in our hearts seeks, we will not find unless we learn to listen. The imperative of listening, of course, is to become what we ought to be, not so. And it's only through a correct listening that we can correctly respond, and that we can actually then grow the potential that's been invested in us for human greatness. It's only then that we can live an exemplary eco homo life, a life that has impact on the lives of others. Frankl described the conscience as a still, small voice. And you know why it's still and small? Because it asks for concentration. It asks for shutting off from all the voices and the shoutings and the rantings and ravings and the bombardment of information and this belief system and that political persuasion and this presentation of facts and another presentation of facts that can be so confusing. We need to shut off those outside sounds and listen to what a situation is truly requiring of us. That is why Frankl said conscience is the true interpreter of life, okay? Logos is deeper than logic, than the appearance of things, or how people show themselves, or how they advertise their particular point of view in trying to persuade us and influence our minds in the wrong way. We are living, as I said, in the age of a worldwide pandemic. Right, here's a global moment. Like Frankl said, every moment has meaning. What is the meaning of this global moment? How are we to understand this pandemic? What is it saying to us? I think there's no more graphic an illustration of this particular, of this truth, of knowing what is being said to us, than this truth that is recorded in Isaiah for us. It says, come, my people, enter your inner chambers and shut the doors behind you and hide yourself for a little moment until the indignation is past. With the lockdown and the restriction of movement, it is really a time of reflection. You know, there's another portion in Jeremiah where God says, I will reduce mankind to pulp and say, repent. And is that something terrible? If we think about the pressing of the olive brings out the finest of oils, and the crunching and the crashing of the grapes brings out the sweetest of wines. This is the whole message. Come out of this pandemic with a clearer vision of what is truly important in life, and let go of what is futile and meaningless. Get rid of it, like the pulp that is discarded after the oil and the wine has come forth. Many of us during this pandemic, and I'm particularly thinking of our beloved Pan, our secretarial administrator of the Viktor Frankl Institute, that have gone through this not only with family members, one after the other, contracting this virus, but she and her son as well. And the hell that she had to go through, not only in trying to see to herself, but to look after her son. And I was just speaking to her earlier that she has reached an even higher level of spiritual growth through this most dreadful experience. And there are, I have lost a family member in COVID, and so have many other people. And you know, it just deepens our perception of the worth of the lives of our loved ones, that we just appreciate so much more, that we give so much more time to, that we listen to. This is really the message at the heart of this pandemic, and it will go on until the world has learned its lesson. But you know what? I'm optimistic because, as I said earlier, suffering makes us aware, as Frankl said, of what ought not to be. And it's with this realization that we can listen to what ought to be. I have full faith that what is going to come out of this pandemic will be for the world's good, not for evil. In fact, I'm expecting evil to really be sidelined and to be pushed more and more into the corner as the light of true living, meaningful living, is spread more brightly over the whole world. This is my expectation. That's why I'm so keen to learn the lesson of this very difficult time. I want to mention a call that is the most definitive call to listen that you can possibly find. And that's what is known as the Shema. The call that is directed in the first instance to the Jewish people, to us here in Israel, and also to all of us. And it reads, "Hear, hear, O Israel, the Lord your God is one." You know, it is this very prayer that Frankl found printed on a torn out page of the Jewish prayer book in the pocket of a coat of an inmate that he was given, and the inmate was already sent to the gas chambers. And Frankl testified to the fact that he saw this as a call to say yes to life, not to commit suicide, but to say yes to life, whatever difficulties and horrors may be lying ahead. And it's this very call that took him right through all of his sufferings to a triumphant outcome, where he had a refined purpose in life and a clarified call or commission in his life. I just want to highlight the fact what Frankl also mentioned, that there is only one truth, but we all have to listen to it from our different angles and share the richness of what we're hearing. What is contained in the Shema. God is a one and only. Only his voice is a clarified voice, like he said in the Psalms. It's a voice 7 times clarified and comes to us clearly. This is the voice that we should hear in our refined consciences. And God is also indivisible, right? There's not a shadow of ambiguity of this point of view or that point of view, or one opinion opposed to another opinion. His truth is clear. And in his indivisibility, he cannot be seen, but only heard. And this is the terrific thing that Frankl also experienced when he came out of the camps. And he made this tremendous statement. He said, "The glory of the homecoming man, you're coming home to yourself at last, fully, is that after all he has suffered, there is nothing that he needs fear anymore except his God." Oh, wow. What a statement. You know, I want to go into this, the Shema as the call to listen through another great God-fearing man, Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sachs, who wrote on a portion in Deuteronomy that I want to share with you. Now, Deuteronomy is known as the book of hearing. The law was transmitted to the Jewish people on 2 tablets of stone, to love God with all of your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and your neighbor on the other as yourself. And it is these tablets that Moses brought down to the people and to teach them how they are applied in each and every situation of life. And he was to refine their hearing when they were at the point of entering their promised land, the homecoming, a land from which all lawlessness and meaninglessness was to be eradicated. He said, if only you would listen to these laws. You know, isn't it incredible that when the people of Israel stood at the foot of Mount Sinai, they didn't see God. They saw the voice. They saw the lightning and the thunder and the sounds. They saw the voice. But it's that voice that is to be brought down into our hearts. And as Rabbi Sachs so graphically said, we are to be a listening people, a people that can hear and respond correctly. And it's so interesting that he said that the word listen in Hebrew, shema, is untranslatable. The English can't capture that word. For example, it means, he says, and this is all in Deuteronomy, if you hearken to these precepts, if you completely obey these laws, if you pay attention to these laws, if you heed these ordinances, and because you hear the judgments. He said that this word, you know, the Shema means to hear, to listen, to heed, to pay attention to, and to obey. And it also means to understand, all in one word. Quite simply, it means that we are to take the commands that come to us in life to heart and live them from the heart with commitment and devotion and a clarity of purpose and direction in our lives. And he goes on to say, we do not see God, we hear God. Knowing is a form of listening. Listening is a deeply spiritual act. To listen to God is to be open to God. And how Frankel has adjured us to be open vessels, open to being spoken to, and open to realize that we have to account for the way we are living our lives. If we learn to listen to what Frankel described as coming to us in our lives as a call to responsibility, the ability to respond rightly, then, as Rabbi Sachs concluded, we will learn to listen to our fellow humans. We can hear the silent cry of the lonely, the poor, the weak, the vulnerable, the people in existential pain. This is the meaning of suffering, to combat it in the lives of others, to help them to find meaning even beyond their suffering, and to understand that it's not there to crush and to annihilate them, but to rise to heights of human greatness. May we, in this difficult time, in our battle with the pandemic, have listening hearts. I want to conclude this discussion of listening as the very art of living a meaningful life by listening to one of our students, Grant Matthews. Grant is blind. But what meaning did he not find in his blindness? He developed an inner ear of listening. And oh, how he responded. You know, I wrote to him to honor him for the tremendous work he is doing where? Among the blind. And I wrote this to him. This is the value and meaning of blindness. It listens. Listening is far more powerful than seeing. Seeing distracts and misleads and gives false impressions. Only once you have learned to listen, to find the truth behind the outward show of things, can you see properly. Thank you.